Hey, what's good, everybody? I'd like to welcome you guys back to the Boombox Guru channel. I'm your host, LB, man. So today, I got a very special album review for you guys. To be honest with you, this is something that's been long overdue. I don't know why I haven't done it sooner, but better late than never. But today, I wanted to talk about. I want to do an album review on one of my favorite albums of all time. I wanted to talk about Michael Jackson's "Off the Wall" record. This came out in 1979. This was Michael's fifth solo album. It was his first collaboration with Quincy Jones, and this is one of my favorite Michael Jackson's album. To be honest with you, I think I'm one of those fans that leans more towards Off the Wall than I do Thriller. You know what I'm saying? And I know that there's kind of like a division in the fan base between some fans who say Off the Wall is his best work, and there's some people that say Thriller is. But I'm kind of one of those fans that lean more towards Off the Wall, and I think that's because this album was such a big part of my childhood growing up. Man, my parents had the vinyl. They had the vinyl LP, and they also had the cassette tape. And I remember as a kid, like me and my moms would go off places and stuff. This was like one of the main tapes that she would like play in the car. So I spent a lot of time like hearing this record growing up as a kid. I would listen to the tape, and my mom would spin the vinyl sometimes, like on the weekends. So I spent a lot of time. I remember as a small child, my mother getting me the CD, I think for my birthday one time or for Christmas, one of the original CD pressings of it. I remember she getting it for me for Christmas, and me spinning it so much back then. So I spent a lot of time listening to Off the Wall, and I think that's why I lean more towards it than I do Thriller. But Thriller is a great record. Don't get me wrong. Thriller has such a tremendous impact on music in general. Even to this day, I don't think anything has topped Thriller. But I think that Thriller was such a huge success that some people tend to forget how great of an album that Off the Wall was. And even though that this is Michael Jackson, technically this is his fifth solo album. Me as a fan, I tend to consider Off the Wall to be Michael's first true solo record. The albums that he did during the Motown era with the Jackson 5, not to discredit those records, because those are some good songs, but I've always looked at those records as being more like Jackson 5 albums released under Michael's name. And honestly, Michael was a little kid back then. I don't think he had much creative input on those records. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he had a lot of his own ideas. And if I'm wrong about this, do correct me in the comment section. But I just feel that Off the Wall was that record that was a real turning point in Michael's career. It was him establishing himself as his own person, as his own artist, and solidifying his solo career. I mean, the music on here was even a departure from the Jacksons era. When Jermaine had left the group and they brought in Jackie, that whole era, with like, Blame It on the Boogie and all that stuff. The sound that he displayed on Off the Wall was even a departure from that. I mean, you're not getting, what am I going to say? This was the introduction of Michael Jackson as a young man. I think Michael was like 20, 21 when he dropped this record. Like I said, it was his first collaboration with Quincy Jones. I believe they met each other when Michael did the movie The Wiz. I think that's where they met each other. And, that musical partnership between him and Quincy Jones was one of the greatest in music. I mean, think about all the huge successful songs and albums that they put out together. And to me, this record just reintroduced Michael to a whole new audience, where people got to see Michael Jackson as his own person. This was no longer little Michael Jackson from the Jackson 5, and it wasn't teenage Michael Jackson from the Jacksons era. This was Michael Jackson, the superstar. That's the best way to put it, man. But this record, man, it's like I said, I spent so much time with this record as a kid growing up that's why it just holds so much of a special place to me. But let's get into some of the songs on this album, man. Well, actually, let's get into all of them, because it's not like a huge track listing, but let's get into all the songs on this album. So The album starts off with "Don't Stop Till You Get Enough." You know, that was the first single from the record, I believe, man. What a great way to start off the album, man. This is one of the most well-known Michael Jackson songs. You know, you hear this song in retail stores all the time. Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, man. And to me, this was the best debut single from this record. Even the video, such a classic video, because to me that was the introduction of, like, oh, this is Michael now. Like, whoa, like he ain't the same Michael from the Jackson 5 anymore. This ain't the same Michael from the Jacksons, man. Like Michael doing his thing, man. There was just so many like signature elements on this song that would carry on in the remainder of in Michael's career that he would expand upon later on, man. But I just really dig this song. This song was the perfect way to kick off this album. It really set the tone for the record, that funky disco vibe. Cause this is a danceable record. You can pretty much dance to almost every song on this record. And Don't Stop Till You Get Enough it just set the tone for the remainder of the record, man. I mean, so many good parts. My favorite part of the song though is the breakdown where that amazing guitar solo comes in. That's my favorite part of the song, and I like Michael Jackson's I like his vocal approach on Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, man. Like I guess it's the falsetto that he was using throughout majority of the song, but yeah, I like how he utilized that. I like just the whole vibe of that song just brings out a fun energy, man. And the video, you know, even though the video is pretty dated, I'm pretty sure that video was very I bet it was pretty remarkable for 1979, like the effects and everything. But it also introduced a new look for Michael. I think he had cut his hair a little. His hair was a little bit shorter. I think he had like an early variation of the Jerry curl in the video, and then the tuxedo outfit with the sparkling socks and everything like that. And he was also displaying like some early variations of his signature dance moves in that video too, man. But yeah, don't stop till you get enough. Which it really just came in and just like, whoa, man. You can just tell that song was probably a killer on the dance floor, man, when it first dropped. So then we get to the next track, which is "Rock with You," another classic Michael Jackson track. This one, I think this is one of the best songs of all time, man, because it's a good balance. You know, it's not quite a ballad, but it's not quite like a dance track either. It's like a really good fusion of both a slow jam as well as a dance song, because you could do either one to Rock with You. You can slow dance to it, or you could just really just dance to it. That's just the kind of approach that song takes, man. And I believe the drummer for Toto actually did the drums on this song. And I saw an interview that he did where he said Quincy Jones told him, like, the opening drum beat. He said Quincy Jones told him that if he asked him to create a drum beat that, like, the greatest, like, opening drum intro that everybody would recognize as soon as they hear it. And he nailed it, because anytime you hear that opening drum, that drum beat on Rock With You, you already know what's about to happen. As soon as you hear it, you're like, okay, that's Michael Jackson's Rock With You. But it's a really good song, man. It's one of Michael's best tracks. The video was cool too. I remember the video having that green light, him in that like sparkly outfit and everything like that. A very minimalist video, but still, it's just a classic video. It's one of Michael's most recognizable videos, especially from those early years, man. But just a great song, man, all around, man. I like it. It's very enjoyable. It's got a real kind of like mellow mood to it, but it's still a danceable track that you could really get down to as well, man. But really enjoy that. One of the biggest singles from this album as well. I think it might have been the second single. Let's see, Working Day and Night. Working Day and Night. I'm not even sure. I don't even think this song was really a single. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments, man. I don't even think Working Day and Night was really a single. I think this was just a song that the radio stations really just gravitated towards. Because I remember growing up as a kid, hearing the oldies station, they would play the heck out of Working Day and Night. And I always thought it was a single. It might have been a single, but it just didn't have a video to it. So I'm not quite sure about that. But this song is just fast, man. This is like one of the greatest disco tracks of all time, man. Like, the energy, very up tempo, just a lot of energy to this track. You could tell that I guarantee you that when this song came out back in '79, when DJ spent this in the club back in the day, you could tell that Working Day and Night was probably a dance floor. It was a dance floor killer. You could probably tell that that song, people probably burnt a hole in the dance floor dancing to that track, man. But I can remember like being in my room sometimes and just dancing, just dancing my butt off to Working Day and Night. I just remember that, man. Like I was really entrenched into that, man. Like this whole entire album, I would just dance my tail off to, man, because that's just the type of energy that it has. But Working Day and Night, I would just get down, man. Sometimes my mom, she would spin the record like on the record player, and I would be in there dancing too, just getting down to it, man. Like trying to mimic all of Michael's moves and so forth, man. But just a wonderful record, man. And then get on the dance, get on the floor. This is more of an album cut, but it's one of my favorites on here, man, because kind of a mid tempo disco track, but this one's more of the funky vibe. This is more of the funk vibe, man. I don't know who played bass on this album, man, but they did such a great job with bass on this record, man, because they a lot of deep bass grooves on here, man. But yeah, get on the floor, man. This is one of my favorites. It's a catchy song. Actually, I think it should have been a single. I think it should have been a single, man, because it's just so catchy. Even if I'm not even thinking about Off the Wall, that song, Get on the Floor, that the hook and everything just gets caught in my head, and I find myself just humming the tune like throughout my day sometimes. That's just how infectious that particular track is, man. But that's one of my favorites on here. That's another song that I used to really get down to as far as dancing goes, because it just has that vibe. And I like that one part where it kind of speeds up and to that more disco rhythm. And Michael, he's doing that. I can't quite recall the stuff that he's saying. He's saying something like "get down, shake your body to the ground," or something like that, something to that effect, man. But just a great song all around, man. And then we get to the title track, which is "Off the Wall." This now the title song on here. This is one of my all-time favorite Michael Jackson tracks, man. The interesting thing about this song, though, "Off the Wall," though, is that compared to the other songs on here, this song is kind of dark. It's kind of dark. It's a little spooky. Like the introduction of the song when it comes on, it's got this like eerie kind of synth and keyboard. And I'm not quite sure, but is that Michael Jackson doing that creepy laugh at the beginning of the song? Anybody that knows that track, y'all know the part that I'm talking about, that real like creepy, that real creepy laugh that comes in. Was that Michael that was doing that? Cause I can't imagine being in the studio and watching Michael Jackson do that in the studio, man. Cause I probably would have been rolling. He probably would have kicked me out of the studio for laughing. Cause I don't know. I'm just always wondering if that was Michael Jackson that did that creepy laugh at the beginning of Off the Wall. But my favorite part of this song, though, is like the bass. The bass, man. It's got this real dirty bass groove to it. It's just really hitting, man. It just really hits you in that right spot. It's just such a groovy bass. And you mostly hear that during the part where he's singing, when he's singing his verses. And then during the choruses, it kind of speeds up to a more kind of like more catchy kind of pop disco kind of style. And that song is about escapism, like, so tonight gotta leave that 9 to 5 up on the shelf and just enjoy yourself, all that, just leaving all the cares of the world and everything like that behind, and just going outside and having a good time. And that's the overall vibe of Off the Wall. It's about just kind of like escapism, just enjoying yourself, because there's a whole fun vibe on this whole entire record, man. And then we get to the next track on here, which is Girlfriend. I'll be honest with you, I've never always been that crazy about Girlfriend. I do know that this song was released as a single over in the UK. I think it might have been around 1980 when that was released over there, but it's never been one of my favorite songs on here. I don't know, I could take it or leave it most of the time. It depends on how entrenched I am in the album. Like if I'm really into the record, I'll listen to it, but then most cases I usually skip it. But with that being said, even though it may be one of my least favorites on the album, I can say this: it is a catchy track. It is a catchy track, because it may not be one of my favorites, but there are moments where I find myself humming the tune to it. You know, it is catchy. It has a very lighthearted melody that's real catchy that can really get caught up in your head. And I find myself doing that sometimes. So maybe I do like it a bit more than I want to admit to. But I just can remember as a kid growing up, it wasn't always the one of the songs I looked forward to hearing anytime I put on the album. But it's not a terrible song by any means, man. It's just not really one of my favorites on here. But then we get to the next track, which is "She's Out of My Life," and this is one of Michael's greatest ballads of all time. I believe was it Rod Temperton? I believe he was the one who actually wrote this song. I believe it was about his relationship with Karen Carpenter of the Carpenters, you know, the famous musical duo. I believe he had just ended his relationship with her or something, and he wrote the lyrics to this song. He wrote this song as a way to express his emotions behind that. And what makes this song so great is that Michael, you know, this is written from somebody else's perspective. Michael is singing it, but Michael he really connected with that song emotionally, man, because the way Michael sings it, you would think that it was him that was going through this like breakup or whatever, but it wasn't. He just really got connected with the emotions of that song. And one of the greatest parts of the track is actually towards the end, where Michael says she's out of my life to end the song, and he chokes up at the end. Everybody has said that was in the studio with Michael, they said that was real, that Michael actually did start to choke up at that part. He actually did start to cry. So I thought that was amazing to hear that was actually real. That was nothing that Michael like kind of put on to make the record better. That was actually a real reaction to singing that song. All right, then we get to the next track on here, which is "I Can't Help It." Now, this is another one of my favorite Michael Jackson songs of all time right here, man. And you know something? A lot of hip hop artists have actually interpolated this song in some form or fashion, whether they've used the melody for a song or they've kind of used like a variation of the chorus. But I really enjoy riding to this song. It just has that vibe. It has this really kind of lush production about it. It just has this lush production about it where you just want to put it on. You want to let the top down on your ride and you just want to ride to it. That's just what it has. It just gives off that vibe, man. And you know, it just gives off that feeling of I guess having the butterflies when you're thinking about somebody that you're really into, that you may be really in love with or something. The whole production sonically, it just really exemplifies that. But I just really did the lush production, almost kind of jazzy in a way, the way it comes off. And see, the next song is "It's the Falling in Love," and again, "It's the Falling in Love." This was a duet that he did. I should have looked this up before I did the video. I'm not sure who the young lady was he did the song with, but you know, again, not one of my particular favorites on here, but it's a good song. It's pretty good. It's more upbeat, more of a gleeful kind of sounding track. I would say that this song is kind of more like in more of the R&B kind of pop standard format of music, but it's not a bad song at all. It's pretty good, man. It's a good track. It's a good track nonetheless. And then we get to the last song of the album, which is "Burn This Disco Out." Another great song on this record, and a perfect way to end the record, man. Like Michael ended the song on a really like high note, like on a dance number, cause it's like, okay, I feel like this album was kind of structured for like disco, and if I'm correct, I think I remember reading somewhere that when Michael was like recording this record, he was heavily influenced by like the Studio 54 scene, because Michael Jackson was a fixture. He was a fixture at Studio 54. He was there a lot. He was one of the main celebrities that would be at that club, and I think a lot of the sound and the influence came from that whole culture and that scene surrounding it. So this whole album in a lot of ways is kind of structured like you spending the night at the club. Spending the night at the club. That's how it's kind of structured. And "Burn This Disco Out" is kind of like a great ending to like a really good club night, where you know you may not end it on, you may have like slow songs here and there to kind of mix things up and to bring people down a little bit, you know, to give them time to kind of like take a little intermission or whatever, and then you come back with the heavy hitters. And I think that's what this does, man. He ends it on a very kind of funky more kind of aggressive like disco track to turn out the night. It's like, hey, this is the last hurrah, let's end it right. And that's what Burn This Disco Out really does, man. It was a great way to end this album. But yeah, man, Michael Jackson's Off the Wall, definitely one of his greatest albums. To be honest with you, I was thinking about this the other day. I don't think Michael Jackson Michael Jackson doesn't have a bad album if you think about it. He never put out bad records. You know what I'm saying? I don't know much about the Motown era stuff he did, which, like I said, I mainly consider those to be like Jackson 5 albums released under his name. But as far as like what I consider the true beginning of his solo career with Off the Wall, from Off the Wall to Thriller to Bad to Dangerous to History and Invincible, those were all great records. Michael never put out a bad record, and this was the beginning of it right here. Michael really solidified his solo career with Off the Wall. He took matters into his own hands because he had the creative input. This was him and Quincy Jones creating this masterpiece of a record. The Motown era records, that I don't think Michael had much creative input in that, because he was a kid. I'm pretty sure his dad and Motown had more of the input of what direction they wanted Michael to go on those records. That's why I say Off the Wall was his true first solo album, because this is Michael. These are his ideas. This is what he wanted to do. Him and Quincy Jones put this together, and they put out a great record, one of the greatest albums of all time. And that's why there's kind of like a little bit of division amongst a lot of Michael Jackson fans on whether Thriller is his best album or Off the Wall, because Off the Wall was great. It's a great record, man. Like all around, there's not a bad song on this record. Yeah, there's a couple on here that aren't particularly my favorites, but that's just my personal taste. If you want to judge this album all around as a whole, it's killer. It's all killer, no filler. You know what I'm saying? Nothing bad about it at all, man. And just going back and listening to these songs, it brought back a little bit of nostalgia for me growing up as a kid. Being introduced to this music through my parents and my aunt and everybody, all the older people that was around me. They brought me all this music. It just really brought back those days of that early discovery of all this good music. You know what I'm saying? That really helped to really formulate my musical tastes as they are today, man. But yeah, Off the Wall, just a tremendous record, man. R.I.P. to Michael Jackson. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since we lost him, but he left some great music for us to listen to, timeless music to listen to from here. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, man, if you ain't never listened to Off the Wall, man, you really need to go check this album out. Like I said, like Thriller was such a huge success that people tend to forget that Off the Wall was also a really great record. And I wouldn't lie to you. I'm not somebody that would steer you wrong, man. But just a wonderful record, man. Glad that I was able to grow up with this record, and even today, it's still a huge part of my music listening pleasure, man. But yeah, Michael Jackson, Off the Wall, man. Just a tremendous record. But yeah, that's it for this album review. I was really excited to do this. It's been long overdue. I should have had a Michael Jackson album review on this channel, man. But hey, like I said earlier, better late than never, man. But I was really excited to do this album review and talk about these songs, man. But oh yeah, and by the way, if you notice that my voice sounded a little funny in this video, it's because I've been kind of dealing with a bit of a cold. Nothing too bad, just kind of a bit of congestion and so forth. If I sounded funny than I did on previous videos, it's just because I've been battling a little bit of a cold. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this album review. If you guys did enjoy this album review, if you could do me a huge favor, hit that thumbs up and give me a like, because it does help the channel. Also, be sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell. That way you'll be notified whenever I drop new content. Also, I want to give a huge shout out and a thank you to everybody that's been supporting the channel, everybody that's subscribed to the channel, everybody that's watching the videos. I truly appreciate it. And as always, hope everybody has a blessed day, a blessed week, and love, peace, and music. Peace out, y'all.